You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome, everybody, to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 250 of East Centralia's favorite podcast. Jeremiah Morrill, joined by executive video audio producer, engineer, Zach Burcham, and my forever co-host, Mr. Dakota Davis. Who are we celebrating this with today?
Today's episode features our favorite liberty defender, the defense attorney to rule them all, Mr. Sean Rao. He is here once again to celebrate with us, bring us good drinks. We have a bag of chips on the table. There's salsa over there. There's hot sauce sprawled on the floor behind me and underneath the table.
It's all in the Patreon.
It's a mess, but
my
it's
tongue's
great.
still burning.
You know, if you want to find out what that was about, go to patreon.com/BossHogLiberty. But we're going to be talking to Sean today, carrying on the candidate series a little bit with no candidates. But we're going to be talking about the recent CFA 4 filings that the candidates just had to turn in. We'll be talking about the District 54 filings, also the local races such as the Henry County Sheriff, the County Council, Commissioners races, and the prosecutor races. Then we're going to talk to you guys about what information those reports can do for you, where you can go get them, how you can find out that information. And then, because Sean's here, we have to talk about the student debt crisis. It's a
hobby horse, I guess. Now
it's an issue that's near and dear to your heart.
I'm a one-issue guy.
Student loan Sean over here.
But there have been a lot of different developments that have been made from the Biden administration, so make sure you stick around until the very end to find out what those are all about.
So is that your reporter hat you're wearing tonight?
Yeah, this is just a hat that I've had for 4 years.
He's defensive.
It kind of does look like one of those like newsboy hats from like
It
back
is
in the
kind of a
day.
newsboy hat. Well,
You went and put on your reporter
Scully
hat.
caps, actually.
You put your reporter hat on and marched down to the courthouse and had to take pencil notes because you didn't pass the bar like Sean. You know, we could have sent Sean in there and paid him
I was already up there this morning.
$400
so,
an hour, and he could have taken a picture of all the forms for us.
discovered since my hair is so short, like on days like today where the temperature's not bad outside. Sean, you probably know this.
Oh, I know.
But
I know.
There's still a wind. It can really cool off your head.
Yes, I was riding my bike out on the trail for 6 miles today, and I definitely felt it the whole time. So.
Yeah, those fisherman beanies where they don't do anything but just cover the top of your head.
Yep.
I understand them really well now.
Yeah.
That is the perfect piece of headwear for weather like this.
This show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we'll provoke you, other times we'll make you laugh, and hopefully you'll always learn something new. Dakota and I have been talking about, man, they're telling us the audio is questionable, everybody. As I'm checking this here,
Yeah,
what Dakota has, your audio engineering over there is questionable.
Yeah, I was going to tell Zach that I sounded really quiet.
We've got people in different spots than they
Yeah.
were last week, which is probably what's going on. I've got
figure it
a
out.
feeling that what's happened is it's from last week and the changes we made. We had her dialed in. It was the ship was sailing. It was perfect. And since then it's changed. Are you guys gonna talk so he can keep track? Anybody? Bueller?
Yeah, sure.
Testing.
I'll complain about my thing I complained about yesterday. I was stuck behind a semi for 17 miles yesterday on I-70. I was like, I'm going to keep track of mile markers now. And so I got on the interstate at Newcastle, and he didn't get over until the Greenfield rest area. And I was like, this is why I hate commuting.
The good news, Zach, is that they are going to build a third lane. The bad news is you're going to have to suffer through while they build the third lane.
Yeah, what's bad is that it's been a couple months ago, they put all the concrete barriers up at the in kind of the dead man's lane inside the exit ramp at Greenfield. And I'm like, oh, they're getting ready. And then now they're doing the T's where they have several very small construction zones along 70, of which I've only seen work being done twice. But they dropped to 60 miles an hour, but nobody does it because there's nobody there. Looks like they're going to stick up some big informational signs too. Like they put they poured some foundations for those big message boards. One of them I think is over by Eastern Hancock or something. And I'm not sure what the other work's being done, but
I'd like to hear a design podcast on why there are only 2 lanes on the interstate typically, right? I mean, why aren't there always 3?
Originally, to be interstate standard, it was 2 lanes. And as truck traffic has increased and as traffic has increased, that's when you started to add that 3rd lane.
I don't know why.
But that's a last 20-year phenomenon.
Yeah, but in the 50s or whatever, it's like, okay, well, 2 lanes divided. There, all right, we're good.
Well, I think they were coming up from 1 lane each way at the time. I'll tell you what's interesting though is like if you get away from Indiana and you go towards the coast or anywhere that's just not Indiana, 2 lanes works in a lot of places because there's just not that much traffic and there's not that many semis. And I sympathize with semis because I know they can't pass like cars can, but 17 miles seemed a little excessive to make one pass. He literally was 1 semi passing 1 other semi for 17 miles. And so I think
this is what did the sheriff's candidates say about your complaints?
This happened yesterday, so I didn't have a chance to. I would have loved to have had a law enforcement officer get stuck up in that mess and pulled that guy over. Like I've only got to see somebody do something and then get pulled over immediately for it like twice. But man, it's an amazing feeling. And
I'm watching the chat room, and there are a lot of theories about what's going on here. My dad thinks there's a bad preamp somewhere. Christy Avery says Zach seems consistently good. It's very suspicious. Of course, I'm loud, and I'm naturally loud.
Yes.
I think Dakota got here late and didn't and I just got unplugged. Dakota didn't really check things over when he put this back together, and I think that's the root cause.
It's okay.
Is that he just took a swing at it? Does he have a gun behind me yet? Is he threatening me?
No, or it could be literally that the cables all worked in a position that they were in, and they got rearranged, and now if they're bent slightly differently, then it could just be causing. Everybody sounds good through my headphones. So as Jeremiah likes to say, we're efforting, but there will be crystal clear podcast audio updated to your favorite podcast catcher sometime tonight. Or
That's
in the
right.
Morning.
You can always check ballsoccerliberty.com. We are a podcast first and a live stream second. So
Because
suffer through it.
We have several different magic contraptions that all have to communicate in perfect harmony to get this thing on.
It is a
the Book of
small
Faces.
miracle that this show makes the air at all.
And I mean, several of them that literally we don't know what we do to make them work, but we just unplug and plug things back in several times. And then kind of like the scene from 2001: A Space Odyssey where they're just like the monkeys are just beating sticks. And when we just do that for a while and all of a sudden everything works, we have no idea what happened.
You can tell by the behavior of the people in the room, Sean. I'm the talent booker, right? I'm not, I look and yep, that's got a light on. It's fine.
Yep.
Zach knows a little bit more because he presses the buttons. And then Dakota is the guy that built the machine. So he's responsible for fixing the machine. He is the maintenance guy.
So what happens is I normally walk in kind of late because I've got stuff going on. And then I usually get things going. If there's an issue, and I'm running back and forth between 2 computers, Jeremiah will be seated the entire time. Sometimes gets up to get himself a beer. Sometimes just asks me for the beer.
Please send for another beer.
And then if anything
I'm
goes,
getting parched over here.
and then he'll be like, today he's like, hey, the lights are still on. Okay.
I'm quality control.
I'm sorry. I hit the buttons. I forgot about the switch. And then if things go wrong, then sometimes we're lucky and Dakota and or Jesse are here. And this time we're lucky Dakota's here. Sometimes.
Well, you said Dakota's here, but he has left the room. I think he
wonder
went back to his truck and he's left.
Is he going back to, I wonder if he's listening somewhere else.
He's here.
I'm sure he's
lurking.
monitoring the situation from
Yeah, from
offsite.
the other room.
He's lurking.
Christy says at least the captions are good. All right, come back to your chair. Let's do the show, and it is what it is.
Father Moral says much better.
Sure. Well, Dakota, have a seat. Please explain to us what you fixed so that the patient listeners can know how you fixed the crisis.
I just did the monkey thing.
Unplug and plug.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I ever ask anybody. Did you turn it off and turn it back on? Or if it's a phone, did you reinstall the app?
That's what I did. I muted everything. Also, I turned the board on and off.
It's back to life.
Something happened.
All right. We do need to thank our big patrons, Christy Avery, Jonathan Phillips, and Anthony Meyer.
That's
phenomenal, awesome people. Help us make the show every week. We've been sponsored by Wyland's Flowers, the Slick Pickle, and Big Bounce Inflatables throughout the candidate series, which will conclude next week with that final House District 54 episode. It's the catch-all, the folks that we hadn't been able to get earlier. We're going to have them on Tuesday episode next week. There's still some merch out there, and you can check the website. You can check the Facebook feed. Maybe a clickable link in there. You can get your it's your last chance probably to get that beanie or that gator, that mask, because as of this week, you don't even need them on an airplane anymore. It's
That's
over.
right. That's
Except
true.
for Philadelphia. I think the city of Philadelphia, their public transportation requires it. Otherwise, you're good to go. So maybe Brian needs it
Maybe when he's traveling back to
if he travels back
visit.
to his OG homeland.
All right.
What else? Is there anything else we left out? We needed to cover. We need to discuss
I don't think so.
on the top end of the
Just
episode
looking at
here.
the chat to see what happens. Got me on high alert now.
So it's candidate campaign finance time. It's where everybody had to
Oh no, I forgot the paper.
turn in what they've done, what they've achieved. You've sent it to us, Dakota. It's on your phone. Mr. Old School, make up another excuse to have to walk away in the middle of a show. I've got a digital version of it right here.
Everything's
I left
going great so far, guys.
I left it in my truck. He's super prepared. All right. It's okay. We're going to do the House District 54 thing anyway to start with.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
And I don't have that.
8-way GOP primary. The top fundraiser so far, including supplemental reports. So this is what happens. And this data is as of 3 days ago. I have not gone back to the state website to see if anybody has received money since then. But essentially what's happened is there was a date and time, I think it's April 1st. After April 1st, if anybody receives a contribution over a certain dollar figure, I think it's $1,000, they've got a day to turn that into the Secretary of State's office.
Correct.
And it goes on the website to show that they've raised money.
Yep.
So Betsy Mills had a couple of significant fundraiser items that came in after the filing deadline. So, but they have to be reported because they're big enough. So there's about $17,000 that came in after the deadline. So including those supplemental reports, Betsy Mills is leading the fundraising in the primary so far on the GOP side, $42,000. Second place in fundraising right now is Bobby Plummer, Commissioner Bobby Plummer. Third place, political newcomer Corey Criswell, $22,000. And based upon receiving a $5,000 contribution after the filing deadline, but putting her into fourth place right now is Heather Carey, who received $5,000 from Scott Schneider, who's a former state senator, who's been sitting on like $9,000 since 2018. His campaign gave $5,000 of his remaining $9,000 to Heather Carey's campaign. So she's got $10,000. And I actually have a mailer that hit my mailbox, which I'm guessing was paid for in that $5,000. So that came today, putting Heather in my mailbox along with so many of the other folks. Former guest to the show, Nancy Custer, $6,600 raised. Melissa Meltzer, $3,900. Josh Gilmore at $3,400, and almost all of that, I think all but about $500 of his raised is self-funded. And then Gayla Taylor, who joined us early on, has raised $1,275. Nan Polk, the Democrat who's waiting in the fall, $11,500 raised. She's on the Newcastle School Board, and of that, $3,000 came from City Councilman Rex Peckinpah. So
That's right.
very interesting so far. I think $10,000 of Bobby's money came from some of the same folks that supported her on her run through for commissioner. Gary Roberts, who I know is a local businessman. The form shows that he's based in Florida. I assume he's in that sort of position where you can have multiple residences, and it's just a good life, Indiana, Florida, bouncing back and forth, depending upon the temperatures in Indiana. So what do you think, Dakota? What do we learn from this?
I think whenever I was writing these, I was like, we can talk all about the money, but I think people there's going to be some people out there that are like, why does it matter? I'm voting for who I'm voting for. Why do I need to know how much money they have in the bank? And I think that I personally think that the financial reports gives some unique insight into the campaigns themselves, how each campaign is running, what their strategy is to try to beat the others on May 3rd, and whether or not we think that's working. Like if someone's spending their money wisely, if it's going to things that you might think are a waste or whatever. This is just on a person by person basis. You know,
the top two fundraisers so far are Mills and Plummer, and and if you look at the expenditures for Bobby Plummer, she has spent her money on a very traditional yard signs, newspaper ads, billboards, WMDH radio. She's invested in some very typical things. And then I think I've received 2, if not 3 mailers from Plummer as well.
Yep.
Betsy Mills has spent significant money in mailers. I think there's probably been 6 or 7 mailers so far from the Mills campaign. And I know that there's talk of a lot of door knocking. And then if you look at Corey Criswell, who's spent, he's got the $22,000 so far. Man, he's got yard signs everywhere. Yard signs, billboards. You've seen that be very effective as well.
Yeah, and I think that one reason, like you see Betsy doing a lot of the mailers, and I think that is one thing that we talked about before on the episode that we did with Aaron Dickin to kick off the candidate series. We talked about how Betsy was going to have to really do a lot of work this year in order to get her name recognition up across the district, because while she might be well known, especially amongst Republicans in Henry County, she needed to build up some name recognition in other places. And I think that the mailers is a great way to do that. Like every week you're seeing Betsy Mills. It's
an open seat, so everybody is struggling with name identification. That they're all trying to achieve that, right?
Right.
Which is the ultimate that you need in a local race on a off year, in the sense there's no presidential election. People are, might be interested in the general election, trying to get Republicans to take back the House or the Senate nationally. But
in this district, though, you don't have a competitive, it's Greg Pence, right?
Right.
Greg Pence is the incumbent. He's very likely not going to be pushed to the limits. So there's nothing other than the local commissioner, council, and state rep races to get people to the polls.
Which again goes to name recognition and getting the name out, which is why the mailers, in my estimation, the mailers and the door to door stuff is the most effective way to do that. And I think that some of these candidates really do get that and have done that effectively.
Yard signs can be indicative if you pay attention to where they are.
Sure.
If you've got a bunch of yard signs that are in public right of ways, and if they're in, all of the same fields owned by the same folks, that's one thing. But when you see a candidate has signs in yard after yard after yard of actual homeowners, of people that have picked up the grassroots support, that's very effective, because that means that there's actually a voter that cares that's living in there as well. That's the expectation you would have. And I think it's going to be very close. I really do. We've still got 10 days to go. I know there's been some early voting at this point, but we're 10 days out from the election. I'm Ron Burger.
We got so many candidates and only so much of the pie to go around. So yeah, I mean, it could
be 18 to 22% is the number. It's going
to be a plurality, and it's going to be something where someone's going to come out on top with a very small percentage based on the numbers of candidates running. So I think they get that. It's at the margins, right? It's who are the marginal potential voters that you can get to turn out for you as a candidate. So
it's very much going to be getting your voters
the day of, or voting early. I mean, a lot of people absentee vote, and that's great, and it's very, very effective.
Anecdotally, I have a lot of family in Rush County, and there are some candidates that you don't see as much up here for their yard signs and their presence. But when I go down to Posey Township in Rush County, all of a sudden that's where I start to pick up and see some of those Melissa Meltzer signs. There's, and I think she's from the Manila area, which is the southern portion of the district. But you get down there, and I think you're going to find, when you get precinct by precinct data coming out of this race, that you're going to see individual candidates. It's not going to be one person's going to win everywhere.
For sure. Yeah, and one thing that I wanted to talk about, like Betsy, whenever, I guess it was last week, it must have been last week, there was a letter in the mail that like it looked like it had cursive writing on the front, and it said it was from Sally Mills. And it was a front and back, like single spaced letter from Betsy's mom, just like basically just like saying like, I'm really proud of my daughter. Like, you should vote for her because she's great. And I was like, this is like, I don't know. I've never seen anything like that in a campaign. I thought it was really smart. I thought it was really creative. I thought it was a good way to reach, especially in a district like this, where it's a lot of the voters in this primary are going to be older folks who probably have kids that are Betsy's age. I thought that was a great move. I thought it was creative enough to warrant talking about, because I hadn't seen anything like that before.
You do mention that it's going to be older voters, but this is the first time a race like this has been amongst people that are millennials.
Yeah,
Corey Criswell,
it's true.
Betsy Mills. There are people that are in our age demographic, and obviously there's folks from all ages. Josh Gilmore, I think, is younger than millennial. He's probably Gen Z.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
he's 22.
He is the youngest candidate, I believe.
Yeah.
In the field.
And then you have some folks that have been around and have plenty of history as well. I'll say that. Is that the nicest way I could possibly
think so.
say that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Why not?
So what other information could you get from a financial report? Like, do you think that it gives you any indication of how popular a candidate is, or where they're going to be standing in this race? Do you look at Betsy and go, oh, $42,000. She must be the most popular.
A lot of it's based upon where you raise your money, how you raise your money, and how you choose to do it. When I've been a candidate, you use the network you have. And if you look at what I raised, I spent a lot of time and effort reaching out to people that I knew that I could get to contribute to my campaign and believe in what I was doing. So a lot of my donors came from across the state of Indiana, of contacts and friends that I had that were able to help propel our campaign forward. I think if you look at what's happened with the campaign reports of folks that have donated in these races, it's relationships. It's who you know. It's who trusts you and who's willing to put their money where their mouth is. You notice that you have elected officials that have given to some candidates that they believe in, that they're close with. It's no secret that, I've watched my mailbox. Tom Saunders has endorsed Bobby Plummer, and you've seen that his campaign committee has given, I think they gave $1,200 to Plummer's campaign. Not a surprise at all. You've seen the Chapman family and the Armstrong Farms have been very supportive of Criswell. And I think that there's a lot of connection there going back to, that part of the county and common interests. You've seen that the local Farm Bureau endorsed Corey Criswell, and there's not there's a correlation there. Everybody has somebody that they believe in for different reasons. I think Betsy Mills has got the endorsement of the Indiana Chamber of Commerce. She's got, I know Chad Malakut's been out there supporting her and is in the financial reports. Everybody has their donor base, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Everybody, some people are self-funded. Josh Gilmore, he's a student, and he's got essentially two people that have donated money. Himself, he's self-funded, and then he's got one business that I think that his family has a relationship with. Totally appropriate and fine. I think it's great. I think it's important for the community to have a lot of people that are interested, and if you want to participate, then jump in. But it has been interesting. Have you been paying attention to the letters of the editor on the opinion page the last couple of days?
I've seen a few. Yeah. A lot of them are just hit pieces on Betsy because they're
both, right. There are folks that are supporting Betsy. There's people that have had, that have tried to break down the financials and say that there's a problem with where money came from or how it's come about. And I think they're all fair. I think they're all fair contributions.
I did see the one that was quite funny. I'm not going to name the person who wrote it, but there was one person.
Oh, wait a minute. I actually do appreciate this about the Courier-Times, that it's better than the blindness of the internet, because people sign their name to whatever they're putting in.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Name and town go there. So
there is verification.
You have
I understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to have the stones. If you're going to write something, your name goes with it.
I'm
and
not
your
going to
name's
say
tied to
anything
it.
because I'm not going to say his name because I'm making fun of him.
Okay, that's fair. That's,
Okay.
But there was a guy that
you are. Hey, what could possibly go wrong?
yeah. There's a dude that was complaining that Betsy got money and an endorsement from the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, which is like, why is that a problem, you think? And then all of a sudden he breaks it down further in his letter to the editor, and he says the Chamber of Commerce has previously said that they're committed to renewable energy. Oh, there it is.
There we go.
Yeah.
Ties to that third rail.
I'll say the
the
Chamber
wind
of Commerce has to be like the most Republican thing
Exactly.
that I can imagine is the Chamber of Commerce, right? So
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Wait, you mean a Republican was endorsed by the
the Chamber of Commerce?
Wow.
Might as well be George Soros.
It's that big wind money blowing into
Sean just
your
wants to know
pockets.
who's going to wipe out his student loan debt, and he's going to be all in.
We'll get to that.
Just
We'll talk
whichever
we'll get to
candidate
that.
can do
We'll
that.
talk to
All right.
Nan about it when she comes on.
All right. Dakota, you put your reporter hat on.
I did.
Zach, you got anything on this topic, by the
Literally
way?
have it on now.
No.
All right. Nothing? By the way, very, very impressive number by Nan Polk. $11,500 in cash on hand, ready to go and meet some folks in the fall. I think that is a tremendous place to be going into the primary. Keep your powder dry. I think not a contested primary on the Democrat side. I think that's a fantastic place to be for Nan Polk in an entirely new district where there's not a lot of name ID. I think that's a great spot as well.
Yeah, so I went down. Well, first of all, I tried to convince Aaron Dickin to go down for me and take notes on a legal pad.
You tried to pull my move and tell somebody else it'd be fun to do work.
Yeah. And, well, I didn't just try to get Aaron Dickin. I tried to get Aaron Dickin or Corey Murphy or Darren Jacobs.
You just send a big group text out.
My name absent. I mean, I'm in that building already.
Yeah, I
so
thought
mean,
about
like,
it. I actually thought about it as I was walking up to the building. I was like, I could have texted Sean.
Yeah.
But it's
Best
fine.
part is Sean's got the credentials to bring his phone through, so you
Yeah,
wouldn't
so
have
you
had
could
the
have just
chicken
taken
scratch.
pictures of him for me. Because
there'll probably be some whispers though, be like, "Oh, Rao's getting he's some kind of dark horse." You know,
they'd be like,
Last minute.
my God, that's Sean Rao's music. He's coming down the
I heard Sean's running as an independent.
Sean's a green candidate for
the
something.
Stone Cold Steve Austin last break, and then I'm just walking down.
Son of a bitch, JR, he's getting in.
He's gonna Jesse Ventura this whole race. Just come in at the last minute and screw it up.
Oh, that'd be a poll. Is it Sheriff Sean or Prosecutor Sean? Judge Sean? Nobody knows.
Well, there's not really a judicial race.
I heard Judge Witham needs to watch it. You're coming for a seat.
Oh no, he's safe. Judge, you're safe. All of our judges are safe.
Dakota and Judge Witham are nearly family at this point.
Almost.
By the way.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Very close. Just one stone away, so to speak.
Just waiting on Robbie. Make his move.
All right.
So I went down there.
Explain your actions.
I tried to get everyone to go down there for me. None of them would do it. So I get off work at 3. The Justice Center, or the office workers in the clerk's office, which is the voter registration office, is an extension of that I would be going to. They close at 4. So I got here at like 3:15. Brian Nichols is here, and Brian's like wanting to hit me up like, hey, you haven't sent me the PayPal for the rent yet. And I'm like, I know, sorry, but I sent you the bill, like whatever. So I'm trying to talk to Brian, not be rude, but I also need to really leave. And I finally get there. And, I get up to the steps. I realize I have a little pouch that I wear on the side of my pants.
with your arsenic and your weapons.
It has I carry a Leatherman in it and a flashlight. Like, cause those two things come in pretty handy for my job.
Put it in the flower pot, or did you bribe the cop
So I was
outside
like,
$5 to keep it for you?
It's like, oh crap. So no, I just had to run back to the truck and put it up. So then I was really running late. Power walked back to the voter registration office, asked the lady, can I see the reports, or can I just get copies of reports or whatever? And I'm not thinking it's $1 a page to get copies there. And then she just picks up every single.
you get the whole stack.
Yeah, that's got the parties in it. Got people running for like township trustee and stuff. Like, who cares about the township trustee? You know,
You heard it here, folks.
I'm just joking.
You heard it here, folks.
We've said good things about township.
Dakota
government.
is exhausting as a co-host.
Yeah.
He just looks at a honey pot and pisses in it. It's pretty much what he does.
No, I just mean like none of them are actually contested races, so it's not something that we were interested
there we
in.
go.
I think there are.
Are there?
Yeah.
We haven't had them on the show.
Well,
But that's a huge disservice to the people of those townships.
how many townships are there?
No, I really just was interested in the ones that we were covering on the show, plus the county council, as far as the candidates that we had, and then the county council races as well, just to get an idea of where their finances were. I also called Travis at the Courier-Times, and Travis is like, I haven't been able to make it down there yet. You know, that's one thing that I wanted to touch on was like, we need to help out our local media, help out the Courier-Times, subscribe to them. Don't just like rely on your 5 free clicks every month or whatever.
I saw somebody do the old copy and paste
I saw that too.
directly onto the Courier-Times post.
That's plagiarism. Don't do it. It's wrong.
I found the GIF of the FBI. You wouldn't steal
I saw
whatever.
it.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
steal this. Why
wouldn't
would
steal
you
a
pirate?
pizza.
Why would you
Yeah.
pirate a movie? And the reporter went back and liked it. So I feel like I was in good graces. I'm back on their good side.
So Travis didn't have the info. I went in there. She pulled out that big stack of paper, and I went through them trying to find things. And then I was like, I was coming in here planning on getting copies. There's way too many pages. I'm not spending $50 to get copies of paper. And so I asked the lady sitting behind the counter, I was like, would you happen to have a pen and paper, please? And she looked at me like, I don't know if I want to do this. And
Again, you have my number.
I know.
I have pens and papers.
I
That's
can't.
kinda my
I didn't
deal.
have my
At this
phone in
point,
there.
they've confiscated his phone.
my whole deal is pen and paper and
Legal
legal
pads.
pads and so on and
Your
so
response
forth.
should have been, I'd like to call my attorney.
Yeah. He's probably down the hall, maybe. Well,
She-
it's afternoon.
but she did look at me
Please,
for a second.
please pull Sean out of the courtroom. I don't care who he's defending.
Thursday
I need
morning.
him here now.
Thursday morning, you know where I'm at. I'm in Henry Circuit Court number 2. Every Thursday morning.
And she reluctantly gave me a piece of copier paper and a pen, and I said, "Oh, thank you very much." And she said, "Are you with the Courier-Times? Are you a new reporter?" And I was like, I have a podcast," which is like she's asking if I'm with the actual news, and I'm like,
You are the news.
You are the news.
Hey, does
First
anybody else
Amendment.
have the information?
"That's right."
This is literally the only place to hear this.
So then I closed down the voter registration office by taking all my time to write out the cash on hand and the amount raised from each candidate. From this information, you can deduct yourself how much they have spent on their own advertising, or if somehow they have not spent any but raised money. Because that's happened too.
Sometimes miracles happen and signs just exist.
Yep, that is true.
Signs and wonders.
So let's start out here with the sheriff's races, I think, because I know a lot of people are interested in that race. And first place for the money raised so far is Mr. John Sproles. He had $33,138.73.
Okay, Mr. Nerd. I think you can just round it to the nearest 1,000 and it'll be okay.
Which I think is pretty impressive.
Hey, he went in there and wrote down all these things with his bare hands.
Yeah.
so he's going to
You're
read
gonna
them
hear
all.
it down
do
to
it.
the penny.
I got to do it. And he has spent a significant amount of money on this race because the cash on hand that he has is $7,407, which, so he's spent a lot of money. That is
Roughly
one report.
$25,000 has been spent so far on his in his campaign, in the Sproles campaign.
So that's one report that I looked at and I saw how much he had spent. I was like, I gotta ruffle through this one. a little
I mean,
bit.
there are some really big billboards out this week.
He also has like there's the different different categories of signs. There's like the standard yard sign, and then there's like some of them have like, I don't know if it's like about a 4x8 foot
Yep.
sign, and he's got like the 4x8s everywhere, and they're full color with a picture of them, and they're kind of everywhere.
Yeah, and it was all like basically his expense report was like pretty standard campaign stuff. Like he's just been hitting it really hard with the billboards, the advertising, Vistaprint, my campaign store. There's like stuff from Fastenal in there to build those PVC stands that he has for his large signs and things.
Interesting. I
lot of
noticed the
stuff for
Criswell
that.
campaign was supporting Menards.
Interesting. And Menards is not a local business.
Yes, they are.
I mean, Fastenal.
There are Henry County.
Fastenal is right here in Newcastle.
They're anti-union, I'm pretty sure.
Jesus, there's the
Dude,
Democrat. in the
Fastenal
room.
or Menards?
Menards, probably. I worked at Menards. And it was not a good place to work. It might be better now, but that was not
They
a good
have
place to work.
Gorgeous day glow highlighter highlighter yellow Indy cars. That's all that matters.
And also, one thing that I did notice John had been spending money on in his campaign is Facebook advertising. So he'd been throwing some money.
I've seen some
On
Betsy Mills
Facebook?
ads too on Facebook.
Yeah. But so I was like, I wonder if that, how that's working for him. And I went and checked out John Sproul's, and then I checked out all the other candidates for sheriffs, and John's got like 4 times the amount of Facebook followers than in any of the rest of them.
All right, so keeping this straight here, Sproles has raised $33,000 and change, has $7,400 remaining. I think my mic may have cut out.
Yeah, it did.
You
I
came
think
out a little bit.
You unplugged it.
Efforting. No, I'm gone.
You shouldn't have taken it out. What'd you do? So I guess
struggle.
carrying on with the sheriff's race, we have Jason Williams, who has raised $6,100, and his cash on hand is $285. So he's also thrown a significant amount of money at this race. As far as like, sometimes you see candidates, they raise money, but they don't spend a lot of their money. They keep it as cash on hand, and you'll see that with people who. You'll see it on both sides, really. People who are overly confident that they're going to win, they won't put much into their advertising, and they'll use that money and keep it. They'll donate it to other campaigns, like we saw with the state senator that donated to the District 54 campaign. Or sometimes they'll just keep it around thinking that maybe they'll need it next time, But I like to see candidates that are spending a lot of money on their campaign. I think that means that they believe in what they're running for. Jay Davis has raised $13,890, and his cash on hand is $1,502. Another significant amount of money. And a lot of these things are going to signs and billboards in the sheriff's races.
Jay's got some very prominent sign locations and billboard locations.
Name recognition and just getting the awareness out.
Right. And then last on the list for the sheriff's candidates, we have Jim Nicholson, who's the captain on the Newcastle Police Department, raised $3,115, and he has $12.56 left. So he's running it, baby.
So I think you raised a good point about how they spend it and the effort that you put in. I think anybody that, if you can get $3,000 to $10,000 raised, that's probably enough to be able to run a countywide campaign.
Yeah.
And, you can do your parades, you can do your yard signs, and you can get your walking materials. Have you guys seen many folks out and about wearing T-shirts and going door to door for these candidates yet? Have you noticed or heard anecdotally people from the sheriff's race that have made it to doors?
I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything either. Honestly, I drive around a lot for my job around this area, and I don't think I've seen anyone. I did see some Americans for Prosperity people walking around. I just assumed it was them. They were walking around with Betsy stuff, and they had green flyers.
That's AFB people knocking for her. As I know, my neighborhood is like the world's easiest to walk. It's not up and down hills like some of the neighborhoods in Newcastle. There's a lot of owner occupied stuff, so we get a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I know we've seen Betsy Mills folks to the door. In this sheriff's race, we saw Jason Williams was there. There was a representative of the Josh Gilmore campaign that's been there, and I think that Michael Mahoney as well made it to our neighborhood. So we've seen a handful of candidates, but I think it's going to just keep picking up. And I didn't see Betsy, but I did see that I think somebody stuck something in my door, and then I actually pulled it out of my flower bed this morning because it's been some windy days.
Yeah,
stuff happens.
Yeah.
All right, so that's that race. The prosecutor race.
Yep.
Tony Saunders is raised and has on hand the $12,700 and change.
Yep.
And I'm looking; these are just in the random order that you found them. You didn't sort.
They were
them.
in alphabetical order.
Michael Mahoney's raised $10,400 and has $2,500 remaining, so about $7,500 has been spent so far in his race.
That's correct.
Northern District Commissioner Joey Cooper has raised $3,000 and has $2,200 left to go. I did notice in the Middletown News today, when I opened that up, a big old full page Joey Cooper ad fell out of it. So there's some money getting spent that wasn't in there originally. And then Joe Wiley has what'd you write? $3,800 he's raised, and
Yeah, Joe Wiley has raised $3,847, and he has on hand $796. So that's what he's got going right now. So he's spent quite a bit of money on there.
In the county council district races, Melanie Wright, Democrat running for, I think that's District 2. I'm Ron Burgundy, $263 raised, $50 left on hand. And who are the other candidates in that race? Mike Regner raised and it has on.
I think Regner and Jackie Brown are District 2.
Those are the two Republicans in that race. Jackie Brown did not report having spent or raised any money.
Yeah, he said he had raised $0.00 and had $0.00 on hand.
And then Regner, 248 raised and spent, or raised and on hand as well. So neither one of them are reporting having spent any money at this point. Let's see. Is that it? That's the list?
We also have
Ken Gray.
Jerry Williams and Ken Gray.
So the District 1, Ken Gray's raised $1,300 and has $925 left on hand. And Jerry Williams, $642 and $95. Let's see. Shannon Tom is running for District 3, which is the seat being vacated by Peg Steffendell.
Yes.
$200 raised and $135 on hand.
And of course, there were other candidates that had put their stuff in, like Susan Hoon had filed her report. She was on time. Just because we didn't include them here doesn't mean that they didn't file their reports on time.
It just means Dakota ran out of paper.
You ran out of time, and they're like, "Sir, you have to leave."
Ran out of time and paper.
It's 4:15.
The only one we've covered that we don't have in here, I think, is the recorder's race. Right?
I left at 3:51. It's pretty good. I told her, I was like, I'm not going to keep you here late.
They start to bring out. I mean, the security gets the taser out about 4:05. Starts cattle prodding people out the building.
I went to high school with Elmer New's son.
Okay. All right. So you're good there.
Yeah. I would assume that
I
Elmer
assume
would
you're
tase
good.
me.
I don't know how that went. I don't know how high school went for you. So
I was friends with Jared. And, pretty good friends, actually.
There we go.
City Councilman Mike Guffey is saying that he's not seen a single person come to his door and ask for his vote yet in the sheriff's race. Got to go. Mike's I'm sure he's a multiple time GOP primary voter. He's got to be a prime, an endorsement, if nothing else.
Listen, I was just talking to
that Mike Guffey endorsement.
I was just talking to my coworker today, or one of my coworkers today, and it was like neither one of us were really decided in that sheriff's race yet. Like both of us were down to like the final two that we were interested in voting in. And I'm not going to say who that is because I learned my lesson.
But of the two of you, you know who they are.
But I'm just saying, there's two of us who are informed politically individuals who are like really trying to decide on the sheriff's race right now. So, get out there and knock on some doors that might help. Because in 2018, in another off year, there was 5,060 people who pulled a Republican ballot.
Yeah. It's going to be extremely low turnout, most likely.
Yeah. I think you could very well see 1,200 to 1,800 people decide that race as well. Mm-hmm. It is really for all of these races, House District 54, any of the races we've covered on this episode, it literally comes down to have a spreadsheet of your voters and make sure they get to the polls. And that election day turnout is going to be more than, hey, how many billboards did you have? It's going to be, did you work your list? Did you get your people to show up? Did you get them there? That's more than anything else. Identify your voters, lock them in, and get them out.
There was one other piece of information I got from the 2018 primary election report from the clerk's office, and something I thought was kind of interesting. In 2018, I took a look at the county council at-large race because there were 5 people running in that county council at-large race, and I know that there were multiple ways to win, but the top percentage, so the person who in a traditional race would win, came away with 26% of the vote. And so, I mean, like, whenever we're talking about 4-person or even more crowded fields like the District 54 race, we're talking like very slim, like very small amounts of people are going to make a significant difference in these races. And that's why, that is one reason why whenever people say like, I don't vote, it doesn't matter. Like,
It doesn't
it significantly matters.
It doesn't matter if you live in Illinois and you're voting for Congress or your senator or governor. It probably doesn't make much of a difference. It doesn't move the needle. If you're voting in a sheriff's race or a county commissioner's race or an open seat for a state representative race, it matters a ton. It is. You have more political say at this moment than you will probably for the next decade. This is a big part of what you get to decide.
All right, Sean, talk to me about the student loan crisis.
Is it a crisis?
Student loan crisis?
That's what we've been calling it on the show.
It's the forgiving student debt.
Yeah.
Joe Biden extended the pause on the student loans until August, so we will just kick that can down the road, which seems to be.
I mean, it's an election year. Is it even are they gonna find another reason why in August to push it again, or is it going to kick
the
back
war
in?
with Ukraine has been too stressful.
Yeah. It's been very upsetting to look at my Twitter feed and just seeing that this continues on, even though this has no bearing on our economy or anything else. So
we've established on this show that your family is still experiencing student loans. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, we've
disclosed that.
Yes, I am a lawyer. I am under the age of 40, so yes. Yes, we do experience student loans.
So would it be to say that some people in your position have, I mean, not you, but some people have taken advantage of this and just not made any student loan payments?
I think you could say
that
that is the case with me also, because I don't have to pay them right now, so I'm not going to. That's what I call a future me problem.
But you did bring some fantastic beer. There are two
how else was I going to pay for it? I mean, my student loans were paused. I bring my friends some beer.
There are two schools of thought, and I will say that the moral household said, "Oh, great, this is perfect."
Well, this
no
is
interest on it.
This is a Goofus and Gallant type situation. So I'm the Goofus in this situation. You're the Gallant.
We're going to knock this out, and we're out of the student loan business in our house. So we took advantage of it and said, "Hey, Sarah is no longer a teacher and she's no longer paying on her I want to be a teacher degree," where it's in the rearview mirror and it's done. But there are other households that have said, "Hey, I don't have to pay this right now. I'm going to go do something else.
I'm going to go pay off other debt
and
that may be at a higher interest."
Uncle Joe promised me that he's going to wipe this clean so I don't have to worry about it.
Well, he also promised.
I got hairy legs.
He also promised $2,000 checks out the door as soon as he got elected when Warnock and Jack Me Off's won Georgia, right?
Yeah.
So $2,000 checks out the door. That never happened. So all of these promises that he's ever made, you just have to assume that, oh man, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said that.
It's Corn Pop's fault.
It's Corn Pop was a bad dude. And so the kicking the can down the road towards August, that gets us closer to the general election, which is going to be a bloodbath for Democrats. So my theory would be he will either continue it past the primary, or he will have some sort of October surprise and be like, "Look, man, here's the thing. You don't have to pay him back no more. How about that?"
Yeah.
You vote me, because his favorability ratings are so poor. And where does he go with this, right? Where does he go with this issue? You can't say that Trump stopped my student loans and then Biden made me repay them. That politically makes no sense, right?
None of this makes sense, Sean. I think it's crap to start with.
I understand there was a global pandemic and all these things, and people couldn't pay him back at the time.
So
but basically, optically, you're going to say a Republican, the guy we said that was a dictator, he's the next Hitler, all these terrible things about Trump. He stopped the student loan process. I didn't pay, none of these people had to pay student loans under Trump during COVID. And then you're going to say, well, as a Democrat liberal, I'm going to turn the faucet back on, back to reality type thing.
How many people have reabsorbed their student loan payment back into their lifestyle? Because they haven't just been saving this. They've gone out and bought new houses, right? Theoretically, so there are some people that went out and bought a new house, and by the way, your interest rate is 3% points higher than it was back in November of last year. So now if you're buying that new house, your payment is way up higher than it was, and that's baked in. That's not,
but then
you can't just shed that tomorrow.
You wait until it just goes down. It's just like anything else in the economy. The interest rates go up, interest rates go down. But
that monthly budget that you had, say you were making that $300 or $400 a month payment on the student loan. Now all of a sudden you've gone from paying a rent that was $1,300 to buying a house where your payment is $1,700, and you sucked that payment out of your monthly budget that would have been going to the student loan, and now it's paying for that house for 30 years.
But I think that's more of a symptom and not the disease. I don't think housing prices went up and people have decided to become more fiscally flippant with their money.
I just think they've reabsorbed it because you've forgotten. I mean, I don't know. Am I crazy to think, Zach, Dakota, that you would have possibly reabsorbed it into your lifestyle
I know
and
that
it went somewhere else now?
I've had something. I've had bills I paid off that were like monthly payments. They disappeared, and then like 6 months later, you're like, "What happened to that?" And like you just whatever your lifestyle, your lifestyle, you adapt your lifestyle
Yes.
to absorb that extra money.
Yes.
And with the
You're buying Tide instead of Great Value.
and that's fine when you pay off a car. But yeah, in this case, and I never had like significant student loans. I know some people, I'm shocked to hear like what their student loan payments are. Yeah. If they're looking at a $400-500 up to like $1,000 payment, all of a sudden coming back after might end up being like 2 to 3 years.
We're at 30 months right now, aren't we? They've been gone since April. I guess we're 24 months right now.
Yeah. Look, right about 2 years now. Yeah. I would imagine a lot. I mean, there were people that when the child tax credit thing happened and they were giving out those and they're doing it as a monthly thing, there were people that like the third payment was late and they were like, what am I going to do? I can't afford to buy groceries.
Yeah. Where's it at?
Because it was like, you've only gotten this twice. And they were, but they were planning on it right then and there.
But then look at what his favorability ratings went after he took it away, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm just talking about political,
Yeah.
like
the smart
win,
move.
lose. Like it's a losing argument for
He can't
Democrats.
go John McCain Straight Talk Express and work this out with the people, man.
Well, first of all, the people around him let him like off the chain a little bit, off the leash, because he is a very, very old man. And if you think about it, like George W. Bush and Al Gore now today are still younger than like him and Trump.
Right.
Even though they ran for president like 22 years ago.
Yeah. In 1999,
And so-
right? They're running for president.
So you can't really let him riff and go off on these things. And it's just,
Hey, in his defense,
Yes.
Joe ran for president in 1988, and it took us until 2020 to finally elect the man.
right.
He's been trying.
Yes.
It's not like he gave up.
The unfortunate part, it's like his body's still alive, but maybe his mind isn't quite there either. But so he can't really fully enjoy, being a lifelong political creature who just does things so he can get a windbreaker from, an insurance company. Like that's his whole reason to be is, and he's like an old school machine politician, and you're not going to see those guys anymore. And you're not going to see a guy who grew up, whose dad was like a car salesman or whatever he was, become president again, right? I mean,
End of an era.
end of an era.
Took the train from Delaware every day.
There is an interesting fact, though, if we want to talk about, get off the rails a little bit about Hunter Biden.
Oh, for the love of God,
But
please.
Hunter Biden's no, I'm not going to talk about Hunter Biden's laptop. Hunter Biden's laptop and the Clinton killing conspiracy. So Hunter Biden had a child purportedly with a stripper, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere there is a child whose mother is a stripper and his grandfather is the president of the United States. Like that's got to be a movie, right?
Yeah, it has to be.
My mom is a stripper and my grandpa is the president of the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, like
The weekends are a lot more fun at the White House
hearing
than they
that
are.
story, you think like a bald eagle and an American flag with
Yeah.
like patriotic. Like
What's
that's,
more America
That's
than
the
that?
most American thing ever.
that could be the next, like Joe Dirt.
Yeah, that's the. I'm surprised it's not Joe Dirt.
All right. Around the room,
It might be.
I want a state from each of you. What state do you cast this movie? Does it take place in? The grandchild lives in which state of the union do you send them to?
Well, where did Hunter live?
West Virginia.
I don't know.
Yeah, Dakota went to West Virginia. Zach,
I'm going Louisiana.
okay.
Gotta go Indiana.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
Why not? Why not
Wow.
Newcastle, Indiana?
Wow, I was also leaning West Virginia, but
Hometown hero.
Dakota took it, so I'm going to say that we're going to go Alabama, Talladega, Alabama. Sounds like a Talladega story to me.
But anyway,
Jane says Arkansas. That's the Clintons. That's a totally different.
yeah, that's
thing.
that's the Clinton crime family.
Yeah.
Clinton body count.
Clinton body count.
Look it up.
That's right.
But no, I mean, it's like he's just going to kick the can down the road, just like every other problem in the society. And we're not going to solve anything. He's just sort of like that comfortable, like, hey man, it's going to be all right. And while we're just this country just kind of fades off into whatever is going to happen next.
My favorite thing that happened with Joe Biden recently, actually, there's a couple of things that have happened with him recently that have been funny. But one of the things was when a reporter asked if they were going to appeal the judge's ruling, the federal judge's ruling over the mask mandates. And he said, yeah, people make their own decisions. And everyone's like, oh,
okay. Joe's done with it now. Cool.
Well, we're done with the mask mandate then, but
we're like, oh, okay. And then the CDC was like, no.
No, we're still fighting it.
People do not make their own decisions, Joe. We make those decisions for them.
Well, I mean, you really had a real choice, right? In the Democratic primary, I'm going to go back to it. Bernie Sanders would have said, this is what we're going to do. We have a real vision for this country, and you may like it or not, but at least there's something.
At least you know. Vision.
And with this, it's just kick the can down the road. Maybe we'll fix it. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Yeah. And it's just it's not fair to people to have like this uncertainty of like, maybe my student loans will restart in August. Maybe they never will.
I mean, here's the crap though, right? So, and I right, probably a point of a privileged thing to say, so I shouldn't say it, but here we go.
Point of personal privilege.
I like that.
Right. I'm self-aware.
That's good.
We paid ours off, right?
Uh-huh.
So we paid ours off. So shame on us. Right? That's the deal, is that we could have, if they say, hey, you know what? And this is the proposal that's out there, is, hey, we're going to forgive $10,000. Well,
which is what he ran on.
Right. We're going to forgive $10,000 or $40,000, whatever it is. Then the hell with me and what I did and having paid on them, or the people that have paid on student loans for 25 years.
Yeah.
You missed the boat. You're not the lucky one right now. Sorry about you.
Can I get a refund of $10,000, please?
Well, it's sort of like, I think that is like, well, I was injured in a car accident because we didn't have seatbelts, and so you shouldn't have seatbelts either. Like it's sort of a,
just because it was bad for you doesn't mean you should want it bad for everybody else.
After the fact. Yeah. I mean, and the fact of the matter is the man ran on forgiving $10,000 of student loan debt. Like that was his platform. How he came up with $10,000, I have no idea. He just thought it sounded good.
They just lie to you, man. Don't believe that.
But again,
who the hell
either
thinks
it
that's
matters
real?
or it does. Like, so I'm an old man and I watch PBS documentaries on like the presidents and things like that, like the real old, like,
Roosevelts.
Yeah. The Roosevelts. And I was watching one on George H.W. Bush.
You got to be a big Taft guy.
Oh, I love bathtubs. But one on H.W. Bush.
Extra wide.
He got murdered on the no new taxes thing. Just absolutely. And the economy tanked. The economy tanked. But he was riding so high. And then he lies to the voters, and then it means something. And now today, I don't know if it's post-Trump, we could get into that, but it doesn't matter what he says. He could say literally anything, and you'll be like, well, he's president. What do you expect? Maybe that's a post-Clinton thing. Maybe we expect that the president will lie to us, or a post-Nixon thing. But
it's not a post-Nixon thing, because it had 15 years after Nixon. It sunk Bush 1.
Consequences for Bush 1, and for lying to, and now it's like, well, he said he was going to forgive $10,000. He said $2,000 checks, but he's kind of old.
I really think it was
That's
Bush Jr.
James Neese is in the chat, and he says it's because he's 100 years old.
Yes,
and he thinks $10,000 is a lot of loan cash,
and he looks like
$80,000.
He looks like a living mummy, and you can't get mad at him. The number one rule is, he's just an old man. What are you going to do? Get mad at him?
Joe thinks you can buy a Plymouth for $8,200 down at Goodwin Brothers.
Did you guys see him get freaked out by the Easter Bunny?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
That was
the
good.
Easter Bunny always looks creepy. Like,
especially when you're not expecting it. You turn around and he's right there.
Yeah.
He was terrified, but then what was even crazier
the Secret Service failed the man.
What was even crazier is the Easter Bunny, obviously being a person that works at the White House, being like, it's time to go.
Yeah.
You're like, the Easter Bunny is escorting the president off of the stage.
Go towards the light.
Is a handler.
Go towards the light.
Neese also. James Neese is an OG Wall contributor. He says the stripper mom political family has to be from Oklahoma.
Oh, that's a good one.
My question about the whole Hunter Biden thing is like, the man had it made. He's making millions of dollars in Ukraine. He's making $10 million a year to set up bankers meetings with the daddy. And it's like, when did he give it all up for crack? Like, when did the crack addiction become so bad?
Because he was the screwed up son. You know, Bo was like the golden child.
Yeah.
So he's kind of in his shadow. And then, you know, you get into addiction, you get into these other things, and
it's like you and Bailey. She's the golden child, and you're you're just trouble.
Yeah.
You got your tattoos and your questionable hat.
Yeah. And and the guy is in Sweden right now who has the clone copy of the laptop.
Yeah.
And
I watch Fox News every night for all these updates. I love it.
He's like, I have 80,000 deleted images to comb through. And it's like, who has 80,000 pictures on their laptop?
A true
just
millennial.
of you smoking crack with whores.
But again,
I have a lot of pictures, but they're mostly from this show.
But again, I mean, it's sort of like one of these things where it's like,
I bet Zach has 80,000 pictures of race cars.
He clearly like has this inferiority thing with his brother who passes away. He wants his, you know, it's not that complicated. I mean, he's a rich kid that has everything. Like, when does that go wrong, right?
Listen, if my dad was someone so important that to make $10 million a year, all I had to do was set up a meeting with him, I would do everything in my power to not mess that up.
Yeah, but that's you now. That's not you with like,
yeah,
you know, having your dad be a senator for your whole life.
Right.
Like it's a totally different.
Dying.
And your brother who you knew was like the chosen one of the family that was going to be the next
I agree
thing.
totally with you. I'm not disagreeing with you.
I have no doubt his brother's death like totally screwed him up too.
Yeah, it's just wild. It's just a wild
it's
thing.
So sad. I feel bad for him. I'm going to get canceled for this, but I feel bad for Hunter Biden. He seems like all of this is just that tragic, like, you know, a lot of loss, a lot of death in that family, which is really the sad part. But the important part is that Joe Biden cancels my student loans. We got to get that out there.
Stay on Uncle Joe's
Joe,
good side
come on.
until
it's
taken care of.
There was a.
I mean, are they all federal student loans? People are acting like he's going to get rid of private student loans too. How's that going to work?
I don't think legally he can. And that's the part that I think that the Department of Education, if this purported memo from like a year ago is ever released, I think that's something that obviously that's not going to happen.
Because you know, if you borrowed your money from Wells Fargo, that's not between the U.S. government and Wells Fargo and you. But
all of those types of loans, like the federal government took over the student loan industry so long ago that the vast majority of the loans now are held by the federal government. So I don't think that's like a small percentage of what's out there, I think, compared to everything else. But they're saying, according to the notes, there's a new program, an income dependent repayment program.
Yeah, there's a new program that was announced by the White House, and it's called the Income Dependent Repayment Program, or the IDR program, because they love acronyms.
Which is different from IBR, which is income based repayment.
Right.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah, different. These are different programs. It's supposed to take into account not just your income. So this is where it differs. It doesn't just take into account your income, but it also takes into account the amount of dependence that you have. And they will reduce the amount, not the amount that you have to pay, not the interest rate, but just your monthly payment in itself.
So that's just you're in it perpetually for the rest of your life. You never get out of it.
But it also guarantees to sunset your loan after 20 to 25 years.
Sean's 40.
There are people right now
putting some age on me, but thank you. I'm 50.
Sean's nearly 40.
I'm
and
nearly
you tell me
80.
In 25 years, Sean is 65. So when he's finally 65
and I finally qualify for Medicare
and he can get his Medicare and his Social Security, we're going to finally let Sean off the hook. We've made him drag this out. We've baited him. We've twisted his life up. And now for 25 years, he's made the minimum payment because Uncle Joe said, look, I'll make you this deal.
Here, man.
Do you realize that there are people right now who are having their Social Security checks docked because of student loan payments?
It's so gruesome. It's so just.
You've made it to the end. You're at the finish line
of
life, and you still are paying on your student
But again,
loans.
this goes to the Democrat thing which again, as the person who likes presidential history and American history, this is a means tested thing that the Democrats always roll out since Clinton, of like, well, we can't really help people exactly, but we can make it a little less painful. And by just doing that, that differentiates us from Republicans. Politically, that doesn't excite anyone or gets anybody to the polls, which is, again, is why I think Democrats are going to get absolutely slaughtered in the midterms.
Presidents lose seats anyway during the midterms. I mean, their party 98% of the time loses seats.
And look what he's done with having a majority, right? I mean,
everybody gets one thing, Sean. You get one thing
with Democrats. With Democrats, you get one thing.
Republicans got one thing. Republicans got tax cuts. That was the one big thing they
got a stacked federal judiciary too.
That's one legislative accomplishment. The judiciary is what it is. You get your one thing in Obama got Obamacare.
Yeah, what they do.
Trump got
bungler
tax cuts. Biden got an infrastructure bill. That's what you get.
And you get an infrastructure bill, and you're going to like it, and that's going to be the end of it. But it's always the story of this I'm so interested in, why is it always like this means tested thing instead of like a universal, like across the board type of program where it's like, well, you know, if you're living in a disadvantaged community and you're a person of color and you file your taxes with the full moon and, you know, and Mercury is in retrograde, you too can qualify for this federal program that may provide you $500 in a refundable grant or something like that. It's like, it's just the most convoluted way to govern. And at least Republicans are like, this is what we think. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to
watch your mailbox. $1,200 will be there.
Yeah. So it's so like, it's frustrating in a different way from being from having a Republican administration.
Here's your problem.
My problem.
Your problem is
if we can narrow it down to one, I'd like that.
Your problem is that you care too much about what government can do. I just want to be left the hell alone. And that's where I've been for 5 years. Since about the beginning of Trump, I'm like, dumpster fire, it's over. Well, don't worry about it anymore.
They won't.
I'm not. They're not going to fix my problem. All I can do is hope they don't spend it to the point where anything that I've been able to do gets destroyed.
But the problem with that, though, is
I just hope I'm dead before our money's worthless. That's all I can hope for. Is that it's by the time I'm in the ground that it's not Myanmar. Like, that's it.
Well, I don't think we're going to have to worry about that. I do think we'll have to worry about other things, but I just think that politically somebody wins, somebody loses, right? And so
nothing changes
by very little changes, but there's these promises that are made and promises not kept because it doesn't matter. I think we're saying the same thing, but I think that we're just going about it different ways. But no, I mean, I think one thing that is positive that's coming out of this is there's more transparency of these programs that are available. There's certain forms that you can fill out, which I love filling out a government form, right? To like, say like you're in public service, like I work as a public defender. I can find out exactly how many qualifying payments that have been made towards that public student loan forgiveness, which is incredibly important because that program was so broken, like less than 1% of people who like went into public service thinking, okay, this is how I'm going to do this. I'm going to work for the public. I'm going to serve people. And then the government just,
if you're in that program and you've not been making payments for the last 2 years, these months still count as payments?
No.
Or you're just,
but you have to make 120 payments, but they can be non-consecutive payments.
Okay.
So whatever payments that you've made, full payments.
So you have to pay on it for 10 years.
120 payments. Yeah. 10 years.
10 years worth of payments.
Yes.
But it might take you 15 or 20, depending upon how many pandemics you go through.
Well, let's wait on the monkeypox or the, the clown flu or whatever else we're going to get here.
Well, the CDC said that the reason why they were wanting to put the mask mandate back in is because they're studying a new variant. So fingers crossed, maybe that'll be the reason why you can get past October.
The Biden administration also, they expanded that public service program, the public service loan forgiveness program. And they claimed that an additional 40,000 people will have their student loans forgiven, air quotes, due to this. Mm-hmm. It's a weird thing to say you're forgiven for your student loans.
Forgiven. Go forth and sin no more.
You're blessed,
Go
my
forth
child.
and borrow no more.
Zach, can you hold your breath for me over there, and we'll just see how long it takes?
Go forth and loot more downtown buildings, my child. Your student loans are forgiven.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's a serious problem. It's something that's not being addressed by the people that are voted in to address it. And just watch what's going to happen. He's going to be a one-term president. And I can't wait to vote in, what is it going to be, 2024?
Sure.
Yeah.
For Kamala Harris versus
Ron DeSantis.
Tom Cotton.
Oh.
You know,
Getting
like
Ronnie
just
boy.
the charisma of those two would just be just incredible. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. It certainly isn't working now, and it's just totally busted.
Miami
You know, a
Vice.
couple years ago, we talked to you about the Democrat primaries for president and how it was interesting and things. And now it's just sad. Thinking of,
Well, because the Democrat Party acquiesce and just rally around Biden. He's like, he's our guy. We can't have Bernie.
Happened overnight.
You had Chris, what was his name? Hardball Chris.
Matthews.
Chris Matthews. On there, like openly crying, afraid that Bernie and his people were going to execute people in Central Park in New York.
Yeah.
Which I love that clip and I find it hilarious. And I hope that Chris Matthews was really afraid of getting beheaded.
Remember-
in Central Park
remember when
just
Joe
for the
Rogan-
fact that he needs to be that way.
when Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
So the establishment
broke the internet.
Republicans were like, and we're going to pull clips of Rogan saying anything distasteful, even if it was out of context in a comedy, and we're going to put it in a compilation and be like, this is the type of person that endorses Bernie Sanders.
Well, I always love the whole like Bernie shouldn't have went on Joe Rogan just to rehash some of that, but he's got the most powerful podcast in the history of the world. Like, why wouldn't you do that to go to outreach to all these people? And it doesn't matter what he thinks about COVID. It doesn't matter what, in hindsight, like, you know,
COVID wasn't even a thing then either.
it wasn't either. Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's just like, you have to pass all these purity tests as a Democrat, but
I maintain none of this matters. Nothing matters beyond your state representative, state
Jeremiah's a
senator,
hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
Jeremiah's a hardcore nihilist.
I think
None of it matters anymore.
I think if-
they're just going to spend your money, steal
think
your
if
money, and
Biden-
not give enough back to you.
If Biden forgives student loans, that will matter to me. I would love that.
Sure.
Please do it. Make it happen.
Fingers crossed.
Make it happen, Jophus.
We're all counting on you. I have
I
enough-
got hairy legs.
But here we go. October surprise, though. What does he do? Right? Does he do anything?
finds his car keys, drives the Corvette.
You ever see that one interview with he's in the car and he's like, "Man, my dad could drive a car."
yeah.
Like not
Yeah,
even
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. It's like it's just that old
like,
person
oh.
brain of like, man, I remember this, and it's
Yeah.
like, but it's in the present. It's really sad,
It is
but it's
sad.
also funny.
I've said from the beginning, like if Joe Biden was your grandpa, you'd be like,
Oh, yeah.
"Come on, grandpa.
Come on,
Like,
grandpa.
We need to.
Come on,
we
man.
need to get back to the house, buddy."
I don't know. He's not going to do anything, so I mean, I don't have really
Enjoy the
for it.
ride. It's spectacular.
Just
I do have an update. I got a text from Brian Nichols, shares the building with us. I don't know who I was texting. I think I sent this to Zach as well earlier today, and Zach's going to understand what the hell I'm talking about. But I said, Felix has a Craig Hampson on his car. He was the engineer when Sebastian Bourdais had so much success at IMS with Coin. It's not a surprise to see him being near the top of the charts. Brian replies back hours later, who are these people?
I had no idea what you just said either. Sounded like a lot of gibberish.
Yeah, I don't think I got that.
there are a lot of words.
Yeah,
I'm talking about
those are certainly all
I mean,
words.
I know
Felix
recognize the worst
Rosenquist,
individual.
Craig Hampson, Sebastian Bourdais, Dale Coyne Racing.
I understand exactly what you're talking about, but I
Yeah.
didn't get that message earlier. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was meant to go to you,
Yeah,
and it didn't happen. So it went to Brian Nichols instead.
because Felix was on the top of the no-toe list today,
Yeah, I just sent it. You got it now,
which
Zach.
is more gibberish to anybody else. To me, the shocking thing was at IMS, the difference between the no-toe and the just top speed chart was 10
okay,
miles an hour.
we've got the whole month of May to talk about racing.
They were on track for 2 days today.
Yeah, it's still
May.
April. It's April.
It's May to us.
April.
Oh,
All right, it's final thoughts time. We'll start with Zach, and he can delve into IndyCar if he wants to.
No, I'm going to do one thing because I couldn't say anything last week because I was behind the camera. Was I mentioned or the bicentennial kind of came up, and I'll post a link to their page again in the chat, and people should look there because they have some stuff going. I know one thing that they have going is they're doing a torch run, like they're going to through the county, and they're trying to find somebody. At least one person, hopefully multiple people, because it'd be a lot of running if it was just one person, from every township and they got a course going. They had the course listed in word form, which I cannot follow.
Don't they want you to run like a sub 8-minute mile?
I thought it was 9. I hope they stretch out. I hope they get a little bit looser on that because
an 8-minute mile for me is
a sub 9 is fast.
Running.
I mean, a sub 9 for most recreational runners is pretty fast. For more than about a mile, I think some people could probably hold it for a mile. But
How far do they expect you to go? A mile?
it depends on the number of people, but I think the course runs it's running all through Henry County, and so they probably have a need for at least probably I don't know, but you email Nate Lamar about it. But I have to, like I said, if they had posted a course map, I would have a better idea, but they literally posted the course as you're giving a description, like go on down to here and turn right at this place and turn. I'm like, I can't. I know my part of the county. I don't know every part of the county, but check out the website for other stuff. They got some other stuff going on. But if you're a runner, they didn't ask about pace, and maybe Nate Lamar just says, "Oh, Zach's fast enough," but I don't know. No, it depends on the day.
So how many miles are you signing up for, Zach?
I just signed up to say I'm interested in doing it, and the amount of miles depends on the number of people because they have a set course that they need to do. And so I imagine that it's got to be like 80 or 100 miles that they're weaving through town. Maybe it's through the county. Maybe it's 40 or something. The county's not that big, but it's 20 miles to get from Newcastle to Moreland and back.
So how many? I guess
they want one person.
What day is this? That's
it's
a better
the first weekend in June.
Okay,
I believe. Yeah,
it's the time capsule opening.
Yeah. Yep. June 4th.
I think it's going to start first thing in the morning. So look, just in general, if you're local, check out the bicentennial page.
Why don't we just have Jeff Watterson do the whole thing?
Jeff's
going to have to make up for whatever everybody else doesn't do.
Jeff took some time off, and Jeff's still a beast. But yeah, Jeff's on the. He said he's on the couch to 50K plan because he has to pay somebody later this year. So he's trying to get back on the horse. But yeah, we should just make Jeff do the whole thing. I'll tell Jeff that.
Thank you.
As we voted, Jeff has to do it.
Yep.
Sean, you got anything for us? Anything we should be looking out for?
Can I make a public endorsement?
Sure.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
I've cleared the floor. I make this endorsement as an individual citizen of this county, but I endorse Michael Mahoney for prosecutor. I've known Michael for as long as I've practiced. He's been in that office for a lot longer than what I've practiced. He is of the utmost integrity. You can take him at his word 100%, and he's always been transparent and professional with me. And notwithstanding my feelings on student loan debt, I am a lifelong ballot polling Republican in this county, and he's somebody I think that would really serve the community well. So just shout out to Michael, and would encourage everyone to check him out and to vote for him on May 3rd. So
awesome.
That's my bit here.
Okay, what are your thoughts on the sheriff race?
That's where I draw the line. I'm only going to comment on one, and that's only because it's kind of what I do. Is I know his opponent had a mailer about how Democrats and defense attorneys, which he is one, support Mr. Mahoney, which I take umbrage with quite a bit, and I disagree with the mailer, which the second paragraph, which is just the most insane Fox News brained drivel I've ever read in my life, where he's talking about if you vote for Mr. Mahoney, this is going to turn into Indianapolis and Chicago and San Francisco and blah, blah, blah. Couldn't be further from the truth. And that alone is the impetus
You don't foresee a time
for
whenever
me saying something. I support Michael regardless, but just publicly, it was just his opponent had the most ridiculous campaign ad I've ever seen in my entire life of following politics. Just absolutely off the rails, absolutely untruthful and deceptive to voters, and just kind of a personal attack, which I thought was totally out of bounds and totally unwarranted. So I think the decision is very clear in that race.
Very good. Dakota, D squared.
have a couple things. Mother's Day is coming up. 2 things that I know that you could get for Mother's Day. One would be a custom tumbler from the DaintyDaisyTumblers.com. That's my wife's site. She is releasing a bunch of new ones this week. So that's exciting. And also Wyland's Flowers. You can get some flowers scheduled for delivery ahead of time. You could do it right now and schedule it for Mother's Day.
You could just whip out your browser.
Well, the day before or after Mother's Day. I don't think they deliver on Sundays. That wouldn't be fair to the delivery drivers. We want them to be at home with their family and their mothers too. But you can order it now and schedule it that far in advance. So go check out Wyland's Flowers. They'll do it for you. And also Audrey's site. I think that's all. I also want to make a couple of public endorsements for everyone I'm going to be voting for. No, I'm just joking.
I was gonna say, we are not done with the candidate series yet, Mr. Reporter.
We're trying to get that Fight Milk money, that Fight Milk endorsement.
I'm surprised Jeremiah didn't turn around and say, shut his mic off.
Buy bodyguards for bodyguards.
Right.
The police have been called. I can hear the sirens. All right, real quick from me. We're doing this camping 6 months out thing again. So Summit Lake is already sold out for their Spooktacular weekend, which is where 6 months from now it's their Halloween thing.
Oh my gosh!
And people take it. It's surreal how quickly these things happen and go. I think we've done it the last 2 or 3 years. But I was perusing the website looking for information on it, and I found a fun activity, Dakota. And I want to see if you and Audrey and the rest of the Boss Hog team want to participate. In the fun run / walk.
Sounds fun.
It's a 5K at Summit Lake, and you dress up in a costume.
Oh, that would be fun.
You could go as a podcast host.
That's a lame costume.
You could dress as Zach Burcham. You could dress up. You could dress up as a politician. You could dress as Uncle Joe and put on some aviators and a bomber jacket. You got all kinds of choices.
Can I tape the extra skin behind my face?
You don't have any extra skin. You're just
perfect.
You're just an Adonis right now.
What do you think? You gonna do the Michael Scott fun run?
What day
for
is
a cure?
it? You didn't say what day.
It's in October. I don't know.
I need to check my calendar.
What is October 20th or something? Dakota, Zach?
It's like the 20th, 21st. I think it's probably if Saturday, 22nd.
Efforting. We're scrolling April, May, June, July, August, September. Got to get 6 months out. Like 2 p.m, October 22nd.
Oh, 2 p.m.
It's like 10 o'clock in the morning, 2 p.m, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It's relatively
I'll
early.
have to see when my campground is doing their trick or treat. I can't commit.
This is a public event. You can endorse somebody way in advance before you have all the information. Why the hell can't you do this?
Oh.
So he's only giving you 6 months notice. So
Can't commit.
Can't commit.
Can't commit. All right. That's enough of this. We will be back on Tuesday night of next week because it's a Tuesday episode. It's something different. And then that'll be it. It's locked in, and you'll have all the information we provide you for the.
And I'll tell you who I'm
candidates.
voting for.
Will you? Are you going to endorse people at the end of that episode?
No. Maybe.
Seems questionable. All right. That's enough of that. We will see you guys next Tuesday.